We are a little bit over a month into the Major League Baseball season. So let's talk about where your Detroit Tigers stand. We'll do that all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Friday, April 25th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Happy Friday. We're going to send you off into the weekend here with a preview episode. We'll talk about this Orioles series that is on deck, but we have an off day, which is the first off day the Tigers have had in about 2 weeks. I think exactly 2 weeks on Thursday. And I think that gives us an opportunity to kind of just get a lay of the land, right? Take a step back, take a deep breath. We're not in the hustle and bustle of, trying to work in big news and big picture kind of conversations along with individual game recaps. We can just kind of talk about where the team stands right now. And I want to go beyond just the Detroit Tigers specifically and talk about the organization as a whole. Where does this organization stand a little bit over? I want to do like a 1 month in thing, but we're a little bit over a month in to the season at this point, just in terms of like weeks and days since opening day or whatever. But I think that's an important exercise to still do, even if we're not going to schedule watch anymore like we used to do when the Tigers were really bad. So I want to start off by just talking about what the identity of this team is. And we're not going to take too much time on this because I think it's pretty blatantly obvious and pretty abundantly clear. The identity of this team is you will not score a lot of runs. And that's awesome. That's so awesome. It is so nice and reassuring. And I give the front office a ton of credit for going out and getting, Jack Flaherty, because I think it would have been very easy for Harris and Greenberg and co to just kind of sit around and go, you know what? This rotation's probably pretty decent and probably one of the better ones, top half of the league, top 10 in the league as it stands right now. But they saw an opportunity to go get Flaherty and bring him back again later in the offseason and took this rotation from, okay, this is probably going to be pretty darn good to, okay, this is going to mess around and be legitimately one of the best rotations in ball. And I think up to this point, it is either the Mets or the Tigers in terms of production. Obviously, the Mariners are always going to be in that conversation as well, just from a talent perspective. The Phillies certainly too, but the Phillies have gotten off to, I don't want to say a bad start. I'll call it a weird start. Okay, they're 13-12. The Mets are off to a crazy good start, so they're a little bit behind them, but the Phillies are on a 4-game losing streak at the time of this recording. So I think that there's still whatever. We're not going to talk Phils. Go listen to Locked On Phillies. Great show. But I think that being the backbone and kind of the identity of your team raises the floor. And that's something we talked about a lot in the offseason, right? Something we talked about a lot in spring training was like, if this team can be a really good pitching unit, then they won't be terrible. And I know that that's a very low bar that I just set, but it is a bar that every team in baseball has to hurdle every season, not being terrible. And even if the offense completely falls apart the rest of the season, and even if, this hot start that the offense has gotten off to, where we're seeing run totals that match some of the better offenses in the American League, even if that completely crumbles and this offense is absolutely putrid, that just means that the Tigers are going to go from winning games kind of comfortably to playing in a lot of really close, low-scoring ball games, and those are still winnable. So I think that is a beautiful place to start because it is the identity of this team. And I think that if you're talking about the future and what we still want to accomplish, I guess, what heights I want this team to reach, I'm getting greedy at this point, and maybe that's stupid of me because it is still April ultimately. But like, I want to be talking about this rotation as the best in baseball by the end of the season. I want national media pundits and personalities and websites to write articles and go on talk shows and talk about how some big market team is going to play the Detroit Tigers. Well, it's going to be tough for them because they're not going to be able to score very many runs. That's what I want. Now, of course, I'm having this conversation. The Orioles will put up 15 every game this weekend, but like that is the direction that I want this to head. I want it to truly be like when Tyler Alexander went to the Rays. Half of the fan base, had the same line. It was like, "Oh, he's gonna win a Cy Young now, ha ha ha," and like everybody had the same joke. I want that to be the Detroit Tigers, and I think locally it already is, especially for the more dedicated fans. But I want it to be, I want it to be a national narrative, some alliteration there. I want it to be something that even casual fans that maybe aren't as invested know, okay, well, I know if I'm going to go to a Tiger game today, I know I'm going to see really good pitching. And that's exciting. There's very few things in baseball that are as exciting as seeing a pitcher dominate and go deep into a ball game. And I think the Tigers have that potential in all 5 of their starting pitchers. That's incredible. The bullpen is also fantastic as well. I think the biggest question going into the year with this bullpen was, are you going to get that back end of the pen swing and miss type of guy? And Tommy Kahnle's been fantastic. Okay, sub 1 ERA, has been the highest leverage reliever, already has 3 or 4 saves under his belt. He's been fantastic, and I absolutely love Tommy Kahnle. Okay, great signing, A+. That being said, I want you to do here's your homework for the weekend. Okay, everybody, stop what you're doing unless you're driving. Then obviously don't. I want you to go whenever you have a second to Will Vest's Baseball Savant page. Okay, go to baseballsavant.com, type in Will Vest, and let that porcelain sink in, because it is absurd. It is absurd. When I tell you that Will Vest has been one of the best relievers in the entire game of baseball, I genuinely mean that. He has been incredible, and he is getting more swing and miss and more strikeouts than Kahnle so far this season. So I think that obviously everybody in the pen can be a high leverage reliever except for Kenta Maeda at this point, and everybody will be in a high leverage situation at some point, probably except for Kenta Maeda. But I think if you have everybody on full rest, who are you going to in the 9th? Right now, it's probably still Kahnle because it's been working. But I don't think Hinch has any fear throwing Will Vest out there, and it wouldn't even surprise me if he kind of took over that role. I don't know, maybe even rather quickly here. So the pitching is fantastic. Starting rotation, the bullpen has not. When you are listening to this on Friday, the entire bullpen, has not given up an earned run in a week, a calendar week. And that was Kenta Maeda. I'd have to go even further and figure out when the last non-Kenta Maeda earned run given up was. It's been a while. Okay, let's talk about the other side, and that is the offense. And kind of 1 month into the season, what's working, what isn't, what we're expecting out of some of these players the rest of the way. We will do that right after this. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you are ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premier titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed. As you easily stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With Wi-Fi 6 and 6E and auto low latency mode advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. With 4K streaming and over 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more, you can get endless entertainment at your fingertips. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Absolutely nailed it. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will, of course, be back on Monday recapping this series against the Baltimore Orioles. Want to talk about the offense a little bit more. I said I wasn't going to talk too much about the pitching and then spent 10 minutes talking about it. How can you not? Like, it's so good and so exciting. The offense has been a more of a pleasant surprise. Not to say that I expected the pitching to be literally the best unit in all of baseball, or one of the two best units in all of baseball. But the offense was a legitimate concern. And even with Riley Green struggling and Parker Meadows hurt and Matt Vierling hurt, the offense has exploded at times, and it has far exceeded my expectations. So the big question is, what's sustainable and what isn't? What are the pieces of this team that are going to be here throughout 162? And what are the ones that we have to plan accordingly and plan ahead for, right? Zach McKinstry has been phenomenal, okay? I don't think Zach McKinstry is going to hit 375 with like a 915 OPS this season, though. So where does he fall, right? Where does he kind of settle into? If Zach McKinstry is even a 750, 715, 705. If Zach McKinstry's OPS starts with the number 7 the rest of the season, it's a massive victory for the organization, and he is going to be immensely valuable with what he brings versatility-wise defensively and on the base paths, okay? So, like, the bar is not what he has set it so far. The bar is just be around league average. He can even be slightly below league average with the value he brings outside of the batter's box, and he'll be well worth it. They do, however, need him to not go to what he has been each of the last 2 years offensively, which is outside of 1 month of the season, he's one of the like bottom 10, 15 qualified hitters in baseball. And he usually has one really good month to kind of prevent him from being in there over the course of a whole season. But that's something that the Tigers and him need to avoid still. Javi, I still have serious concerns about the sustainability of Javi's offense, despite what he's brought on the defensive side of the ball. And that's because, as I mentioned a lot already on the show this year, his power is completely disappeared. There is zero pop in that bat. Literally none. He is just trying to make contact with the baseball every time he goes up there. And he's been better at it. He's not striking out as much. He's not swinging and missing it as much. He's taking more pitches. That is all great. And that will prevent him from being maybe the worst qualified hitter in all of baseball. The thing with Javi is I don't think he even needs to be close to a league average hitter for people to be like, all right, this is fine. And it's because of his uber athleticism and the value he brings defensively, and the fact that he can put the ball in play when runners are in scoring position. He can get those clutch hits. He's so good with wrist still, even despite the fact that everything else and every other part of the offense has disappeared. So, like, if he can just be the 9 hitter that has a 650 OPS and plays good defense, I think as a fan base, we'd kind of take that. Dylan Dingler's another one. He's gotten off to such a good start this year, offensively and defensively. But I think for the sake of this conversation, mostly we're going to focus on the offense. Getting any sort of offensive production out of catcher is such a luxury in this sport and has been for the history of this sport. And I think that when talking about Dylan Dingler, the more that he hits, the more pressure it is going to put on AJ Hinch when it comes to divvying up the playing time between him and Jake Rogers when he comes back. Rogers will presumably still be the catcher for Tarek Skubal, but that's like once, maybe twice a week. And it's not a righty-lefty platoon. They're both righties. So, like, there isn't a natural just, oh, this is your day, and it'll naturally be about 50-50 or 60-40. I am really excited about Dingler. We have talked about Dylan Dingler on this show since he was drafted as kind of that solid defensive catcher with a little bit of offensive upside. And I think that the thing that excites me the most about Dingler when it comes to his offense is the fact that I want to choose my words carefully here. I think that that this has the potential to be relatively sustainable. 277 average, a slug of 490 maybe is a little high, but also the OBP of 288 is really low. I don't think he's drawn a walk yet this year. That'll obviously change. He walked a decent amount in the minor leagues. So where does he settle into? He's a guy right now that just is hitting the ball really hard, kind of all over the field and squaring the ball up really well, striking out a lot and not walking. That's not sustainable. He's gonna he will have to stop swinging at everything and cut the strikeout rate at 30% a little bit. But Jake Rogers has a really high strikeout rate as well. So if Dingler can kind of fall into that natural, just okay, this guy can maybe have a 730 to 750 OPS and give us a little bit of pop, and maybe not strike out 30% of the time, he's gonna cut into Rogers' playing time and maybe even pretty significantly if he can keep up this pace. But again, the OBP as it stands right now is impossible to sustain with 0 walks or 1 walk, whatever he has on the season. So we will see. We'll see kind of where he settles in. I want more of a sample size with him. And then we get into the kind of the 2 main attractions of this season, and that's Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson. Torque, I don't even want to spend too much time on. I think he's good. Like, I think Spencer Torkelson's a good hitter. I think the changes he made are tangible enough for me. I feel like I've said this a billion times. I'm sorry if you're an everydayer and you've heard me give this spiel like every day, but I think that it's tangible enough for me to grasp, to be like, okay, that is a legitimate difference in mechanics from years past, and it has made him on time for fastballs and able to adjust to off speed. Is he going to have an 1,000 OPS? No, he's not. He's not going to put up Miguel Cabrera numbers, but like, I think that this guy can legitimately be that 850-ish, mid 800s, maybe even high 800 OPS guy that can draw walks and be a 30-plus, 35-plus home run hitter. I'm not sure I'm ready to go 40 yet for this team. And I think the biggest change we've seen, because, everyone loves to talk about the homers and the walks and whatnot. He's just putting the ball in play when runners are on base. He's not trying to do too much. He's getting his singles and his doubles when runners are in scoring position, and he's driving them in. And that's the sign of a really professional and mature hitter. Riley Green is going to be fine. The question with Riley Green is not whether or not he figures it out and like recovers from this slump. The question with Riley Green is whether he is ever going to be a consistent at bat, or whether he is just going to have a whole career of peaks and valleys. And he's just going to be a guy that gets really hot sometimes and then gets really cold sometimes. And you kind of got to live with the cold streaks to enjoy the hot streaks. And it's just going to be kind of an up and down thing in that regard. He also something that will help that a lot and has been frustrating this year. I don't really care about like the big picture again, like cold front. I know that he'll get past that. He's too talented not to. He has been brutal against lefties in any capacity this year. That's something that I really want to see him iron out sooner rather than later, because I do not want Riley Green to be a platoon hitter. Not that that's like a negative thing or a bad thing or that it's not necessary, but I think that the ceiling of Riley Green is a franchise player that you build around, and he will not become that if he doesn't figure out how to hit lefties way more effectively than he has really so far in his career. But I'll even take what he did last season, where he was just putting the ball in play and not having much power against them. So we'll see. But I want to see how the next month goes for Riley Green, because I want to see a consistent and sustainable approach. Right now, he has not had that. Let's talk about the organization as a whole. Then we'll talk about the Baltimore Orioles. We'll do that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Let's talk prospects. So the number one prospect in the Tigers organization is Jackson Jobe. We all know how he's doing. I don't need to give you a prospect update on him. Number two is Max Clark. Max Clark in West Michigan at the time of this recording is hitting 296 with a 913 OPS. That is phenomenal. And where is he getting most of that OPS from? Only has one homer and 4 doubles, so not a lot of slug, a 426 slugging percentage. His OBP, however, is almost 500. He has a 487, and we're 15 games into the season there as well. Want to make that very well known. But he has an on-base percentage legitimately that is close to 500, and he has gotten on base in almost every game West Michigan has played so far this season. He's going to be really good. The question is his ceiling, right? He is going to be a really good OBP guy that can put the ball in play, can wreak havoc on the bases, can be a big-time plus defender in center with a cannon of an arm. That's 4 tools, okay? And the question when asking how good can he be is your opinion of what his power tool is going to end up being, right? There are people that are legitimately concerned about his ability to consistently drive the baseball and consistently have an approach, I guess, that leads to more slug. And while we have yet to see that, he's still again getting on base at almost a 50% clip, and is in West Michigan and is still very, very young. He's 20 years old. I understand maybe the hesitation for the high end, and obviously he's going to be forever linked with Wyatt Langford and whatnot. I don't care about that at this point. I'm focused on the player we do have, and he's doing really well and is really exciting and is, I think, instilling a lot of confidence into this fan base. I'm hopeful that he can develop a little bit more power in there as well, because if that comes around, then you're talking about 5 tools, and then you're talking about a player that can truly be kind of franchise altering. So we'll keep an eye on him the rest of the way, but he has had a phenomenal season, and he's one of the most exciting players in really all of professional baseball to watch. He is an absolute electric factory. Kevin McGonigal still hurt, makes me want to cry my eyes out. 4 years. The other guy that I really want to talk about here is Bryce Rayner. Okay, we'll kind of save him for the end. They were on Lorenzo, gotten off to a really solid start, slugging the heck out of the baseball in Double-A. We know that. Jose Briseño, similar thing down in West Michigan, crushing the baseball so far. Hao-Yu Lee got off to a little bit of a slower start, has picked it up a lot lately, which is nice to see. Owen Hall, we're finally seeing for the first time this year. Owen Hall is ranked, in some people in top 10. I say first time this year. He was drafted just in the second round last season out of high school, and I was pretty excited about him. Another guy, Jake Miller, has kind of burst onto the scene on the mound as a lefty in Double-A as well. But another guy that I'm really excited about is Paul Wilson. Okay. This is the first time that Paul Wilson has pitched above rookie ball in his professional career. And he was I want to say, third round pick in 2023. And big, long lefty, drafted out of high school, has third innings, according to MLB Pipeline right now, under his belt this season, but has the velocity and the stuff, I think, to be a major league pitcher. I'm really excited about what he can kind of bring the rest of the way. And there's a lot of players between the margins, aside from just the big names as well. Jaden Ham is a guy who's kind of made a name for himself over the last couple of years. Troy Melton as well. Frangerber Montilla is a guy that I absolutely adore and kind of burst onto the scene in the really lower levels of the minors last year. There's just so much depth and top end talent here. You have to give a tip of the cap to this front office and to Scott Harris on how they have really built this organization, the structure that they have put in place. And I'm going to end this conversation by talking about Bryce Reed, who I am trying really hard to not be a homer, okay, and to not be a biased homer that is just, my organization's the best and yours is the worst, whatever. And every single top prospect the Tigers get, I think, is the best in baseball. I'm trying really hard to not be that with Bryce Reed. From the games that I have watched, and he's only been healthy for, I think, 8 games this year. The games that we have been able to see from Rayner so far this season, he looks incredible. Every time he hits the ball, it is crushed. He is very athletic, looks very sound defensively. He did have an error on Thursday, I want to say. But this is a guy that could stick at shortstop, be a really athletic guy at short and on the base paths that also can just drive the ball to all fields. He hasn't even played 10 professional baseball games yet. So I'm not here to tell you that scrap everything. We're building the entire franchise around this guy, right? But from what we've seen so far, I am unbelievably excited. And I genuinely think that in a year's time or in 2 years' time, he is going to be comfortably in top 20, maybe even top 10 prospects in baseball lists. I can't say enough good things about what we've seen so far. And so that's the exciting part about the Tigers organization, is that they're winning at the major league level. They won a playoff series last year. They've gotten off to a good start this year and have one of the best farm systems in the entire league. That is structure. That is winning structure. And that is a tip of the cap to the front office and the man in charge. What a time. Because now when there's turnover and they lose somebody to free agency or somebody gets hurt or somebody ends up not being what they thought, there's somebody else in line. There's somebody else in the wings. There's somebody else to point to and get ready for. And to constantly be able to fill in holes with young talent and not 4A journeyman players, that's when you know that the organization is healthy and has made it. And I think because the Tigers like to draft so young and draft high schoolers, I think that we're probably a year, 2 at most from just being in that position, where almost anybody that comes up is somebody to be really excited about. Good times, baby. The Baltimore Orioles come into town this weekend, and the Detroit Tigers will throw out Casey Mize, Jackson Jobe, and Tarek Skubal. Casey Mize will go up against Brandon Young, who has only started 1 game this year and did not pitch very well in it. Jackson Jobe will go up against the veteran Charlie Morton, who is 0-5 with an 11, just under 11 ERA. And then on Sunday, you have Dean Kremer against Tarek Skubal. Kremer has an ERA of almost 7 and a career ERA over 4. The Orioles have a really good offense. It has legitimately been good. They've gotten a couple of guys got off the slower starts, but Cedric Mullins has been incredible. Adley Rutschman found it. They obviously, Jackson Holliday, one of the top prospects in baseball, has kind of had an iffy major league career, but there's talent there. getting back a healthy Gunnar Henderson will be huge for them going forward. This is a team with a lot of offensive talent. I don't mean this to be dramatic. I genuinely feel this, and this is not an insult to Orioles fans. We know all about questionable ownership, and I'm sure there's a lot of frustration in O's land right now. So we support you, Orioles fans. We're not an enemy here, but I mean this when I say this. This is legitimately one of the worst pitching staffs in all of baseball. I don't just mean among contenders. I mean everybody. The only team in baseball that has given up more runs than the Baltimore Orioles so far this season is the 4-19 Colorado Rockies, who play in Coors Field, and they've given up one single more run than the Orioles pitching staff. This is an atrocity, and it's an embarrassment, and it's a slap in the face to ownership. You trade for Burns, you let him walk. Obviously, they've had some bad injury luck on that front as well. Grayson Rodriguez among the like. But this front office sat on its hands and didn't bring in pitching help to an organization that was pitching away from being one of the best teams in baseball. It's so offensive. I think the Orioles will be fine. I think there's too much talent on here. But when I say fine, I mean like they'll be in the mix and kind of be 500. I don't see any world in which the Orioles are going to take the AL East or completely, reach that true ceiling of potential that was laid out for them to be one of the best teams in baseball. Because they have no pitching, literally none. The only thing they have going for them is if they do have a close game and a lead late, they can bring out some talent to close the door, but they don't have long relief and they have no starting pitching. The Detroit Tigers have crushed starting pitching so far this year and been really good early in ball games. That is a recipe for success. I think the expectation should be to win this series. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back on Sunday recapping this Orioles series at home. Go to the ballpark, man. What a beautiful weekend. I got the windows open in my apartment in downtown Detroit. You can hear people with speakers and people joking around and having a good time. There was a guy rapping down at the riverfront earlier. I love this city. Detroit basketball. I'll be there Sunday. Come say what's up. Pistons in 5 and go Tigers, baby. I can't find the button now to end the show. That was going to be a really cool exit. Peace and love. Going to therapy dope. I'll catch y'all Monday, baby. Go Tigers.